Okay. We ready, guys?
I'm ready.
Well, good. Well, we are back with another episode of Sounds Like Life podcast with the one and only Darryl Worley. I get him tripped up on that every time. And we've had some really exciting places. We've had some neat atmospheres that we've gotten to go to the RNC, backstage at the Opry, Studio B.
Yeah.
Incredible places. But Scott Williams wins the best view here at Discovery Park.
Wow.
So this is the best view.
High.
And so
this place is beautiful.
It's absolutely breathtaking. And this is something that's neat. So you guys have seen, we're kind of getting a good groove. We've been in this a couple of months. And one of the things, Scott, and I'll introduce you again formally here in a second, but one of the reasons why this podcast makes so much sense is because when we first started talking about outlining this and having a podcast and what do we want it to do and what do we want it to be, one of the things that Darryl and I have connected on since day one is our love for West Tennessee.
Yes.
And so when this event came up and we knew we've got all these people from Alabama, Tennessee, Mississippi here for this conference, we want to do everything we can to help you guys showcase Discovery Park, help get people here. So Darryl's going to be performing after this podcast. And then we thought, let's go ahead and bring the podcast so that we can, one, give some exposure to Discovery Park. But for those who don't know, you've got some cool stories about a previous life of yours at Graceland. So that's kind of a large introduction to the one and only Scott Williams, who's the CEO of Discovery Park.
That's incredible. And, of course, we're a big fan of yours. You've been here
you.
many times here at Discovery Park. Travis, you too. You don't sing, thank goodness, but we do enjoy having you here working with us in promoting West Tennessee. And
he does sing, by the way.
Does he?
Yeah,
I
it's
keep
just
that to
one of those-
myself.
I've not heard that.
I sing solo.
Okay. Well, that's
Solo,
in the
you can't hear
shower.
me. So.
Well, it's great to have you guys here. And, of course, I, too, love West Tennessee. So this is a great event that we're having.
Yeah. So before we get into Discovery Park, tell us a little bit about the event, and then we'll kind of get in and roll from there. So the event, it's a 3-day conference.
That's right. It's a 3-day conference, and it's folks from the states that you mentioned gathered together to talk about rural tourism and the power that rural tourism has to play a big role in the economy of small towns.
Yes.
Robert Kirkland, the impetus for him moving forward with his idea of this $100 million investment that he made was the departure of the Goodyear tire plant that you may be able to see over my shoulder.
Yep.
It left in 2011, taking with it about 2,000 jobs in a town of 10,000. So as you can imagine, boom. I mean, it was like a bomb went off.
Yep.
Some houses had 3 people living in the house that all worked at the Goodyear tire plant.
That's like the paper mill over in our county.
And when it goes...
Oh, it's terrible. I mean, sometimes out of the harshest circumstances, things like this.
That's exactly right. It Discovery Park of America, we just did our 2023 economic impact study. It brought in right at $40 million into this county from tourists.
That's
amazing.
It's making a big impact. Of course, he passed away about a year after he opened Discovery Park, but I know he's up in heaven giving us high fives, for making a difference in the town that he loved.
He left some good folks behind. I know his son, and I ran into him at a gym that I worked out in Lebanon one day, and we started talking, and I'm like, you have got to be. I said, what a small world, because I knew about this place. I just didn't know who he was.
Was it Chris or Tab?
He's I think, did you say Tab?
Tab, yeah.
He's a tall guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of sandy-headed.
Yeah.
Cool fella.
Yeah, they're great. All 3 of the Kirkland's children are fantastic.
I figured that.
Each is successful in their own right and is doing some amazing things.
They're good people. I was just amazed by him. He was talking to another guy about a couple of acts that they had musical acts here to play, and I thought, well, I'm crazy if I don't go over there and ask who that is. I might get a gig.
That's right. That's right. I'm glad you did.
We struck up a conversation, and I told him, I said, man, I've been to that thing several times already. But I'll tell you one of the things, we were talking about it a little bit before we started, that I love about this view, though, is I grew up farming in the river bottoms over in Hardin County, Tennessee, and which is the Delta. And, you know, we talked about the 3 stars on the Tennessee state flag and what they mean. Well, it basically represents, you know, the lowlands, the Delta, then the Cumberland Plateau where it rises up to and then you go on into the Smoky Mountains, so we have all 3 of those, and that's what those stars stand for. A lot of people don't know that. They just learned something on the Darryl Worley podcast. But I love the fact that you can see the farmland so plain from up here, man. And this area here is just that's mostly what it is. And it has a beauty of its own, and that's a great view right out there.
Well, and the sky, you can see the sky. I mean, you can see so far, especially when it's clear. A day like today, it'll be a beautiful sunset today.
Oh yeah, it's the best, closest thing to a big sky you're gonna get in West Tennessee.
That's right. That's
or
right.
in any part of Tennessee.
It's neat to see. I feel like every time I come here, I learn something new. And I learned earlier that you're giving Darryl and I some of the classic cars before we leave today.
Tell me about that.
We appreciate that
As
contribution.
payment
That's fantastic.
for doing the podcast here.
But no, I mean,
Which
that
one
has
did you
grown
pick
so
out?
much. I can't. We couldn't decide.
Ooh,
we
that's
changed our
tough.
mind twice.
Yeah.
But that exhibits. I mean, I feel like there's something that's always changing, and I know that's part of your background and your museum knowledge and those types of things. Tell me why people come to Discovery Park. Tell me what the vision is there, and in those types of things.
Sure. So when Robert Kirkland first envisioned Discovery Park of America, he didn't have it a completed idea yet. So Robert Kirkland wanted to create a center of education. Wow. He didn't really love the word education because it sounded boring. So he was trying. He did not like the word museum. So he was trying to figure out what should it be. So he did the smartest thing anybody could do. He put an ad in the paper, and he said, "I'm going to create a center of education. If you're interested in joining me, meet me at the library at this date, at this time, and we'll do it together." Now, one thing about him is he was a huge practical joker, and he also had the money to be able to put behind his really good practical jokes. So as an example, one time he had an article put in the newspaper that was about TVA was moving Reelfoot Lake closer to Union City for tourism. And so people just went bananas. How dare they? You know, they were raising all kinds of heck. And then some of them maybe looked at and saw it was April 1st on the head. So anyway, so people were wondering when he did that, is he pulling our leg again? And so this is a town of 10,000. By then it had even decreased. And so people were thinking, you know, he's probably thinking, how many people are going to come? He had 250 people show up. Wow. And he had divided the room into sections. And so he had science, he had art, he had transportation, space. He had thought of all these different categories, and he said, go to the table that you're the most interested in that topic. And everybody got up and did it, and he said, you are now the committees. I want you to meet separately and bring to me what you want to put in this place that I'm going to pay for. And so they did, and you know, the people brought him. People took it really seriously, and they did sketches and they did research, and they brought it to him, and he took all of that to a group of museum professionals that he had assembled, and he said, build this. And so he had a budget originally of $35 million, and by the time he was done, he had spent $100 million. And so he wanted only the best. And this was not a guy who dressed in the fanciest clothes. And he didn't drive, you know, the fanciest cars, but he spared no expense for this place. Wow. I was just thinking a minute ago when I went in there to use the bathroom, when they were finishing up, you know, some of the layout, he said, "Oh, I need a bathroom in that tower because people go up there, they're going to want to stay a long time. They might have to go to the bathroom." And they said, "Oh, sir, it's too late. We can't do plumbing. You know, it's already done." And he said, "You didn't hear me. I said I wanted a bathroom in that tower." And so when you go to the bathroom up here in the tower, you can thank Robert Kirkland for having the forethought. So anyway, his goal was to inspire children and adults to see beyond. He wanted you to come here and leave here no matter how old you are, no matter how smart you are, or how many degrees you have, or maybe you're in kindergarten. He wanted you to walk away from here having a burning desire to go out and learn more about a topic, whether that's history or cars or dinosaurs or anything like that. And we get to see that every day. It's absolutely changing lives.
Yeah, I came in this place. not a lot of people even know this, but I have a degree in biology and chemistry, and I was going to go to med school. Anyway, we can get into the rest of that story later, but this place just absolutely inspired me. I mean, and in so many different ways, and I just thought, what a service to the community and the world. People come from everywhere to see this thing, and it's just unbelievable. The history, there's so much to learn here. I mean, Discovery Park.
Right. Well, and I was telling some folks earlier, in one of the sessions that we had that, they have a little contest here where you have to, people will sign up and then they'll share their elevator speech. Everybody in every business has to have an elevator speech. Well, my elevator speech gets to be an escalator speech because a lot of the people, men and women and children, will come here and it's their very first time to see an escalator. Because think about it, if you don't go to the airport, you don't go to the mall, where would you see one? So it blows their minds, first of all, and then that is why our escalators are in glass and all of our elevators don't have walls on them. You can see all the workings because we want to inspire people to maybe want to be a designer, to want to be an engineer. And you can stand there and you can watch anytime. You can stand there and watch kids come up and go, and somebody was up there doing it, and they were going, "You're right, I just saw it."
And nobody's told them how to get on and get off yet.
And you watch them. You watch how you watch human nature and how some people would just barrel on it.
Oh yeah,
they don't care if they're falling over. Some people will hold on to the side.
Yes.
And some people will just take the elevator. They'll be like, "I pass. I pass."
I'm gonna have to watch for that.
That's
now. That's something
it's shocking.
Yeah, I bet.
That's
and I
great.
tell you one thing that I applaud, and of course Darryl does events every day, but the amount of events that you guys produce here and on the scale that you do. Now, you just had one. I hated that we had a Blue Spire Kitchen event, but your powwow that you had, I've seen so many incredible pictures. Y'all had people from all over the country. You want to talk a little bit about events? I mean, the education focused.
Was this of Native Americans?
Yeah, we started this 2 years ago. The way it got started was, first of all, we have a Native American gallery.
Sure.
Here that has a lot of arrowheads and a lot of pottery and things like that. And so we were going after a grant to improve part of it, and we got rejected. And part of the rejection said, because you guys don't really have any Native American input. And they were absolutely right. So we thought, how can we pull Native Americans into our organization to help make it better? And we met some folks that helped us put on our first powwow.
Do they dance?
Well, fascinating. Have you ever been?
Oh,
yeah. Okay. Well, see, I was surprised that they're actually competing.
Absolutely.
I didn't know. I thought they were just going to talk to each other, but no, they actually dance.
Oh, it's a
they're
big
competing for
yes.
their storytelling,
Yes.
and it's amazing. And the first year we did it, it was good, but it poured down rain.
Oh, yeah.
And so we
Tennessee,
had to
right?
move inside, which people still loved it.
Oh,
And this year we were blessed with great weather. It was outside. We had more than 75 Native Americans from all over the United
amazing.
States.
Yeah.
We had a lot of vendors. But, we can only pull off as many events and as good of events as we do because of the staff that works here.
Yeah.
Sure.
We're very blessed to have a group of employees, teammates, whatever you want to call us, who they just absolutely are like watching Olympic basketball players or something. I mean, they know how to toss the ball back and forth. And when you've worked with people, as you know, on events for a long time, you get to where you can communicate with your eyeballs.
I don't have to say a word.
Sure.
And honestly, nobody sees all the foibles and the mistakes, and we just dust ourselves, off and jump right back on the horse. And, so honestly, all of us here that work here, we all love events, so we all wear different hats. But when it comes to events, every one of us loves to put a person on a stage, have people in an audience, and create magic. It's just that there's something about doing that that you just can't even almost put into words. It's just
Trust me, I know.
the fun of it.
Mhm.
We did the Tennessee River Run over in my hometown, which is it just started off being called the Reunion, and it was going to be a one-time thing. We shot I think it's WKNO out of Memphis came. It's public TV.
Yeah.
They wanted to do this concert live to be broadcast on TV, and so we did it at Pigwig. and that was actually the very first Tennessee River Run. We didn't know it was going to be. They needed say 150 or so people, a crowd that they could control, and 3,500 showed up.
Right.
And we couldn't really, I said, man, we could do something with this. So for 20 years we had an annual event, and it's exactly what you said. Of course, it was a big deal to close that event every year, but the bigger deal was to go out or find a vantage point and stand and watch all those people seeing the talent that we brought in, and just that's a wonderful feeling, man, when
Right.
you know that you've
And it's just like things grow organically, or the best
Sure.
ones that grow. They didn't start off saying, let's do Bonnaroo.
Right.
Let's
No.
make it Bonnaroo
That's
from the very
right.
beginning. It evolves and it grows and it has a natural life
Yep.
cycle to
It's
it.
so much easier that way too.
You
By the
know?
way,
Yes.
anybody who wants to just show
When
up
you're
and
not
throw a huge
fighting it, yeah.
festival, it's not as easy as
Cool.
just
and
pushing a
then
button and making it happen.
there are times when I'm sure it hasn't happened to y'all, but where you do everything right and it just doesn't come
It
out.
has happened to me,
the
too.
way-
Yeah.
just doesn't come out.
Well,
way
at the
you
end of the
thought.
spend way more money than what you even thought you would, and
Yeah.
it's okay. We're gonna get it back. And
Yeah,
then you don't.
you have to think. And to your point, we do have a lot of events, and that way we can play around a little bit, because some
if
that maybe are
one-
more successful
Right.
might pay for some that are less
Well, and
successful.
that allows you to build a brand, and this is something I hope the listeners are catching, that I really applaud the work that y'all do with events, because you've built a reputation of, if it's a Discovery Park event, I don't care what it is. If it works with my schedule to drive an hour over here, I'm going to try to do it.
Mhm.
And so that's something that's so hard to do, but you guys diversify it so well, and it just has that fit of, okay, if they're doing a big event, I need to be there. And so I really applaud you guys for that, because
Well,
it's
thank
not
you.
easy.
We that is 100% the folks that work here and their love of it, because you got to love it to do it, and
Oh, yeah.
and I know quick if somebody's new on the team, and if they don't love an event, if they don't love events,
Mhm.
because as you and I have talked about Elvis and Elvis Week, and that's sort of one of my long, I grew up in the world of Elvis, and so Elvis Week, honestly, we would work 20 hours a day. I'm not kidding.
Oh, I get,
Oh,
yeah.
I believe
We
it.
had some of my Elvis Week buddies, and my Elvis buddies will remember we had a closet for the 20th anniversary, I think it was. We literally put a mattress in a closet, and we had a schedule on the door of who's
get
going to
some
be
shut-eye.
sleeping when, and we would go in there and lay down and sleep.
Now that's a great segment. So again, going back to one of the things when we were brainstorming this concept of Sounds Like Life podcast, we just communicated, because we realized we can sit on the bed of his truck, we can sit at a restaurant, we can sit at a bar, anywhere we are, we can sit for 30 minutes. We did it outside of his truck for 5 minutes before we came up here, and there's going to be a story that comes out. And one of the things that Darryl doesn't know is you and I have had the pleasure of several dinners at conferences like this, and we always end up with an Elvis story.
Mhm.
I'm an Elvis fanatic. Worley loves him some Elvis.
Yeah.
And so I'd love to go there if you're open to that.
Yeah,
and tell
no,
some of your history there. And
absolutely.
some of those stories are what drive this podcast, because
Mhm.
people love that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So if you're open to it, I'd love to, because I'd love to go down some of those stories that we've had.
Absolutely.
We
yeah.
just played there in Memphis this past weekend
Oh.
at Midtown, there at Lafayette's music
Mhm.
venue,
Yeah.
which has been there for a long, long
Oh,
time.
long time.
And everybody on the whole bus, my crew and everybody was asking about Rendezvous ribs and Graceland. And so,
Mhm.
I mean, when you go to Memphis,
That's where it's at.
Yeah, you got to have barbecue. I mean, there's a lot. I mean,
say.
the Rendezvous fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
But then, I mean, there are so many good
You're
barbecue
right.
restaurants in Memphis that you can just, I do not go to Memphis that I don't try to get a Tops barbecue
sure.
sandwich and some French fries.
I was going to say, give us your top three. I'm not going to ask you to pick
Yeah.
your favorite. That's
You know,
not fair. But
I'm
I've heard you say
I'm
Tops.
I'm an old Corky's guy. I love
Corky's, yeah.
Corky's.
Yeah, sure.
And then what's that one over Cooper Young area? Central Barbecue.
Central.
That's
I was
the
going to say,
one.
Mike,
Yeah.
that's the one. Mike, we bring Mike in every once in a while,
Yeah.
let him talk.
Yeah,
I
that's
know
good
that's
time.
one of his,
Yeah.
that's by far one of my favorite.
Yeah, Central is good.
especially
will
because I
tell you,
always end
West
up-
Tennessee knows how to do
They
barbecue.
know some barbecue.
Absolutely.
And I tell you, the one that's up and coming is here for this event. Darryl got to meet him out at the loading dock earlier. Hopefully, he's got some food for you to try. But if not, we're going to go by the restaurant at some point when you're in town.
Cool.
Blake's in Martin.
Yeah. Now that's a story right there. So Blake
Yeah.
was just a kid, and we've had him on our podcast,
Yeah.
and I go there every time. I know he gets annoyed by me, like going, "Is Blake back there?" I want to see Blake, because I want him to come out and say hi to me. And he always does. Super sweet guy.
Great kid.
But
Great guy.
he's traveled. He traveled all over Texas, learning how to make the best brisket that you can make.
Mm-hmm.
And then he came back here and had a food truck, and it was so good that it just people would line up, for an hour to get it. And so somebody had the bright idea, we need to help this guy get a restaurant.
Man, you would be really, really surprised. And I just read something about this, but more than that, over the past 15 years, being on the road, playing fairs and festivals, you're going to see your share of food trucks. And so many really big, good, successful restaurants get started that way.
And a food truck, that's right.
Yes.
And you know what? That's kind of a metaphor for life.
Absolutely.
People don't just start off being, hugely successful.
That's
You
right.
start off in a food truck.
Great
you know?
metaphor.
And now Blake's is in Martin. It's called Blake's Mill.
Southern something.
Yeah, Southern Mill.
Southern Milling. Yep.
There you go.
It's
Blake's
unbelievable.
Southern
The
Mill.
brisket,
Beautiful
the mac
restaurant.
and cheese. Oh my god.
Yeah, everything he does.
I hadn't had much to eat today.
Everything
That's,
he does is
the
really great.
ribs
So
were good.
put that on your list for when you come to this part of the
Oh,
country.
by the way, before he gets into this, so there will be, here we are in Union City, Tennessee.
Mhm.
That's Northwest Tennessee. This Discovery Park is nestled in here right next to Union City. But all that stuff will go on when this is over, they can get the links and
Yeah,
I would think.
So we'll promote. I'll work with Claire and Scott's incredible marketing team. They've got itineraries and things to where you can go.
I
see
want
the different
people to come to
stops.
this place,
Yeah.
man, because it's such a. It is kind of out here, It just pops up, and you're like, "Well, what is that?" But we're out there. West Tennessee's, we're this is rural Tennessee, and we love it that way. But man, when something like this, it's like we have Shiloh National Military Park,
Yeah.
which is just gorgeous.
Yeah,
I
I've been
can
there
tell you.
many, many
Have you been
times.
there?
Yeah, many
so that's
times.
so if you walk down to the river overlook and you looking across the river in the distance over to your right, you can see where some ridge tops start to come up. That's where I grew up. Right on
Oh
top-
wow,
right on
that's
top of those
great.
hills.
That's really neat. Yeah, very
So-
neat.
So I love this place.
I thought we were going to lose you. I thought you were going to say, y'all finish up this podcast. If he's got this barbecue down there. So what they're doing, and this is a brilliant idea for the conference. I'm not sure who came up with this, but basically, you want to tell them about dinner tonight?
Yeah, it's basically people from all around the region who have restaurants, and they've
Oh, wow.
they've come here, and they'll have sampling of the food throughout, so people can, when you go to a conference, you end up in the conference space. You end up, you're too tired by the time, to really. So tonight, people can really enjoy it. There'll be music, thanks to you. There'll be
hope.
food.
Thanks to Randall French.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, it'll be. It's a great opportunity for people to really get a good example of what happens in this area with
That was
food.
a cool
Great.
idea. Just
It
to
is
look
a
and
good
see,
idea.
sample all of it, and get
Heck yeah.
everybody some exposure. And
Love it.
and so I just figured you were going to say I'm going to make a plate if I got to
Man,
play. So we'll get you to play
for sure.
But all right, let's go back to the Elvis
Okay,
stories.
let's
I got-
go
we
back.
got sidetracked.
Let's take
and-
care of business.
Let's take
Let's
care of
TCB.
business. TCB.
So, I will just give you a little bit. Usually, they just kind of come out, So
Yeah,
I don't usually
absolutely.
plan it ahead of time.
Right.
So,
Right.
so really quickly, here's the story. I was working in a hospital. Loved the hospital. People were nice. It was, good situation. But I had an opening for a artist in my department, and I was looking down. This tells you how long ago it was. So I was looking down the newspaper, and they making sure everything was right. And then right next to it, there was a job, and they were looking for someone to take Elvis digital. This was when the internet was first heating up, and I had done a lot of work in the healthcare field in helping people learn what should go online with healthcare stuff.
Okay.
Very exciting stuff. So I saw that, and I thought, I should apply for that just for the heck of it. And so I put my resume into the old fax machine the way we used to do back in the
Heck
day,
yeah.
and didn't even think a thing else about it. And then they called me and said, we want to talk to you. And so, but I had decided by then, what am I doing? I like my job. I don't want to do something different. So I just halfway went on the interview, and they wanted me to fill out an application. I just filled out about half of it and then closed it and handed it to the lady. But I just hit it off with the folks that were interviewing. Jennifer Burgess was the marketing director there, and she and I hit it off, and met Jack Soden, who was the president, and Regina Gamble, who ran the operations and the HR. Anyway, Have you ever gone into a situation where you just felt like you were supposed to be there?
Oh, yeah.
It's just one of those weird things that somehow you just know it was meant to be.
Absolutely.
So it just felt like putting on an old glove. And so just fell in love with the people, with the whole company, with the branding of it, with the idea of Elvis. And I was there for 12 years and, had the privilege of working for Jack Soden, who just won the big award there in Memphis. I can't remember all the award names, but he won a big award acknowledging the Rock and Soul Museum Award. I think.
I got to interject this.
Okay.
That feeling you were talking about,
Yeah.
where you just knew.
Yeah.
That's how I know that I'm allowing myself to be led.
Yeah. See, that's great, isn't it?
That's what it is.
Absolutely.
For me, I mean.
Yeah.
And
No,
I mean,
know
that is the most.
when
It's
you're
like,
doing.
ooh,
what
I
you're
feel it
supposed to
warming
do.
up.
That's exactly right. It's
Yeah.
exactly how it was for me in that
Awesome.
moment.
Yeah.
And thanks to Elvis and the organization, I got to travel all over the world representing the estate and getting to gather information and as an example, at one time Jack said, we're trying to figure out what we should do about this Elvis impersonator stuff. We don't really know what to do. It's, what do you think? And so, put together a little plan. And so I got to travel all over the world to different Elvis tribute artist contests, which happen all over the country. And people don't understand a lot of these guys spend a lot of money on their jumpsuits.
man.
They're great singers.
Yes.
They work at their craft, and then they compete. And so we put together the Ultimate Elvis Tribute Artist Contest, which is still going on today. And some of these guys are just absolutely mind-blowing how good they are.
My piano player, when he's not working with me, he works with an act that has 4 or 5 Elvis impersonators on one show.
Mm-hmm.
They go on cruises. Like we've gone on cruises where he was working with me and them at the same time.
Yeah. Oh,
That's cool.
And
I wonder if it's like Sean Clush. That's one of them. The ambassador's their manager, and there's about
that sounds right.
Victor Trevino Jr. And there's a whole group of those guys that have formerly won Elvis Tribute
That
Artist
sounds right.
contest.
And that's the piano player is my piano player.
Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic.
Al Babiak
yeah.
is his name, and I mean, I don't think people. I honestly, till I saw these guys on one of the cruises, I didn't realize how serious that they're serious. It's for real.
Well, the first prize
can
in
sing,
Memphis, they all work towards going to Memphis. The first prize is $25,000
Exactly.
and a contract. And of all the guys I know of that have won, they've all continued their careers as Elvis tribute artists because they can make a lot of money in Vegas on cruises and local casinos, and and the thing that a lot of people maybe don't understand is that these guys are also really big Elvis fans.
Oh, absolutely.
They don't want to in any way disparage the memory
Right.
of Elvis, and so they really are respectful.
Yes.
And that's what those are the kind of things that you hear backstage.
Sure.
Those are the kinds of things you observe.
Sure.
The seriousness that they take their craft and how dedicated they are to representing Elvis. And so when you see all that, you really gain an appreciation. And the same thing for Elvis fans. A lot of people may not understand that, like during Elvis week, you'll have 25,000 people coming from all over the world, to
It's
celebrate the life of
unbelievable.
Elvis and the career of Elvis. And people would say to me, well, do you think that's, going to die out as people? And honest to goodness, the crowds continued to get younger,
Yes.
as all young people. One of my last Elvis weeks where I got to work there, a dad came up to me with 2 little boys that looked to be about 10 years old, and he said, I got a question for you. What are y'all doing to my kids? And I was like, what do you mean? And he said, my wife and I, we're not Elvis fans at all, but my 2 boys, they are huge Elvis
Isn't that
fans, and for
something?
their birthday, they wanted to go to Graceland to Elvis week.
We've played the festival that they have in Tupelo. I don't know, maybe 3 different times.
Yeah.
And I can't speak to how big it is for as far as numbers, but I've never seen that many people in Tupelo, Mississippi. So I don't think it's going anywhere.
No, it's absolutely not. And you know, Elvis Presley Enterprises also, it was really interesting. I also worked with the people who licensed the name, image, and likeness to be able to create product, and you know, so there's hundreds and hundreds of Elvis products and stuff. People love to celebrate Elvis by buying things, and so that makes the economy, of Elvis very valuable, and it makes people want to do movies and want to write books, and So I remember there was a man. He's passed away, so I don't mind saying his name. But his name was Mudge, and one day I just answered my phone, and this guy said. He was from, I believe it was Italy. He had a broken accent. And he said, you work there. I don't want to order things online. I can't get there right now. But do you have a pen? And I said, yeah. And he goes, well, I've got the catalog in front of me. I'd like you to buy these things. I'm going to give you my credit card number, and I want you to mail them to me. And so, I said, yes, sir, right away. And so, he spent $5,000 right there on the phone with me, and so from then on, for the rest of the time I worked there, I would get a call every 6 months or so, and someone would say, look, you're on the phone. And I would say, I got ready,
it. Yeah. Let me talk to him.
Take down the order. So
that's
fine. I mean, people love to celebrate, Elvis. And the thing about Elvis is so amazing is that what other entertainment brand is going to have a 1950s, 68 special, a 1970s?
Right.
There's all these different versions of Elvis that that people are attracted to.
That's right.
Did y'all see the movie, the Elvis movie that just came out?
Yes.
Oh, I saw it on a plane. I was flying. And to be honest with you, I wasn't prepared for it. It really, I mean, it was a great movie. And don't take this the wrong way, but it made me so sad.
Yeah.
Because I think it's the first time that they got across just how, the Colonel and all the inner workings of it and how it It was still an amazing life story, but man, it could have been really different too.
Right, I didn't think I was gonna like it, because I've seen all the Elvis movies,
right,
and I was like, thinking, how could they get this right? But we went, and I promise, but when it was over with, I was just dumbfounded.
I was exhausted.
I couldn't move.
It was good, man.
I really felt like they captured the spirit somehow.
Yes,
they did.
That's what I'm saying phenomenal. Is I felt those emotions that people.
Yeah.
My mom and dad, so not so much my dad, but my mom was a huge Elvis fan.
Yeah.
And literally met him on the street in Memphis when they were going to Memphis State to college. That he and 2 friends of his pulled up right beside my mom and dad on the street at midnight. They get out and ride their motorcycles late at night so nobody would bother them.
Yeah.
And there's just some incredible stories there. My mom graduated from high school in 1957, and she said it was the greatest time for music in the world. She just loved it. But the stories are absolutely phenomenal. I mean, you got to get so down deep in that where most people just see the surface of it.
Right. And I always have been very grateful that I got that opportunity.
Yeah, sure.
And so I never take it for granted, and I'm always respectful of it. But I got the privilege because we did Elvis in concert where they took the big screen of Elvis on the screen but because of the way they had done the recordings, they had just his vocals. And so they had nothing else but Elvis on the screen, his vocals.
You're right.
And they put the orchestra back up there, the TCB band, the Sweet
night.
Inspirations, that the Imperials, and they're all up there live. And then they perform, and when Elvis says, "Take it away, Glenn D." He's there physically, and he does.
Yes.
And you really forget in your head that Elvis is not there. And so I would get to sit backstage.
That would be phenomenal.
Now I never misinterpreted my job. My job was to make sure everybody got where they were supposed. I was the pool boy, at the club. I didn't think I was in any way special because I'm not. But I got to sit there and listen to these guys tell stories just like we all would if we all went to college together. They're saying, "Hey, y'all remember that time? Blah blah blah." And Elvis was just one of the characters in their
Unbelievable.
life as they're swapping stories, and I got to just sit there and soak all that in and listen to it. And so, and I knew at the time, I was like, man, what
That's
a
a
blessing.
treasure.
What a blessing.
You
so-
know who I know very well? It's actually a very close friend of mine. And we cut up and carry on when I run into him is Ronnie McDowell.
Yeah, yeah.
And I see
absolutely.
Ronnie quite often.
Yeah.
And the other night, he had the big Elvis ring on. And that story is incredible.
Mm-hmm.
He told a story about one night, late at night, they had done whatever they had done that evening, and they decided they were going to go to a little diner or something and eat. And they were debating on whether to let him in or not. And then this other group of people came up right behind him, and they said, well, if we let them in, we got to let them in. So they let everybody come in. And he said, we sat there for a few minutes, and the guy that owned the place was talking to me, and he said, I looked up, and Elvis was headed toward the stand, where the hostess stands, the hostess stand.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently Elvis goes over and gets some menus out of the thing and goes over and gives them to the people and said, I'll be taking care of you tonight. And then went back later and took their order. And he said he was actually that kind of guy.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of things that Elvis did that maybe haven't risen to the surface that he was doing behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Well, there was I hope I don't mistell the story, but there was a young lady who was working in a hospital. She was going to nursing school, and he somehow encountered her, and she was, she just started talking to him, and he ended up hiring her at Graceland in the office that they had there and told them not to give her any work so she could do her homework and so that she could get her nursing degree, and she ended up getting it. So there's a lot of things like that he would do behind the scenes, and, everybody who really knows Elvis knows that you shouldn't deify him, that, just like the rest of us, he had his strengths and his weaknesses.
Well, of course.
But just as far as raw talent that is then funneled into, the body of work that he created, it's just incredible when you think about, all these years later, how it's still that movie that just came out, huge hit.
Yeah.
The thousands and thousands of people that still visit Graceland every single day.
Oh, yeah.
It's incredible.
Now,
I just had some friends that were going back to New Orleans, and they said, we're going through Memphis. We're going to Graceland. I said, have you been there before? Oh, yeah, we're going back.
Right. No, it is.
It's funny to me.
Yeah, it is an experience. Well, it's just like going to Discovery Park. And a place like this, an iconic place, when you go to it, it's the weather can make it different. The people you encounter can make it different. The temporary exhibits, all of us that work in the tourism and entertainment fields, we know that you're looking to create magic for the people that visit. And again, it goes back to the people that work there. Same thing with Graceland. The people here, when you walk in that place, you're going to be blown away by how kind they are.
Yeah.
They work hard to make sure that you have a good experience.
Your staff here is incredible.
Yeah, amen.
They always
Yeah.
have been.
Yeah.
I was standing up there kind of looking lost earlier. I just had walked through the door, and I thought, well, I'll just stand over here in line and tell the lady. And all of a sudden, this young man comes up the escalator, looks right at me, says, "Can I help you?" And I said, "Sure." And he brought me right here. So.
Yeah, that's perfect.
gotta
Yeah,
make
no.
you feel good.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And same thing at Graceland. Graceland works really hard at making sure that when you've come there for Graceland, you still have a great experience because of the people that work there. And that really is what makes a difference in any organization.
Absolutely.
So I think that's one thing we could sit here and celebrate the history of West Tennessee and talk about those types of things for hours, and I would soak it up because he's got so much knowledge on so many different areas. But Scott, I want to give you the microphone and the platform for a second because I know the visions you've got. I know what you see for this place, what you see for this region, how often I've heard you say when Paris, Tennessee wins, Discovery Parks wins, or when, and vice versa, and drawing all those lines. And I know that Darryl shares a lot of those same feelings. So give you that platform to just kind of say where you think we are, where you think we're going as a region. Kind of put you on the spot there.
Sure,
for a
yeah,
second.
no, that's okay.
Yeah.
I'm glad that was the question. I didn't know where he was going with that. I thought
Darryl, welcome to my world.
I thought he was going to ask me to talk about politics.
I'm glad I'm in the middle today.
No, what's exciting about being in Northwest Tennessee is I really see some momentum that has been building. First of all, we have a governor who really, truly sees the value of tourism to help rural communities,
Right.
and that's been part of his agenda from day one.
It has.
Is to empower rural communities. He's appointed Melanie Beecham, and
Right.
he's tagged his friend Mark Ezell as our commissioner, and Melanie's assistant commissioner, and she's focused on rural tourism. So he's really given them the direction to empower all of us that work in these rural communities to embrace tourism, and also to communicate with our county commissioners, our mayors, our city leaders, because really it also is on them to help support some of the things that we're doing. And so that's why I think events like the one we're at today are so helpful at pulling us together and allowing us to learn from each other.
Sure.
And you couldn't have been a mayor or a county commissioner or anybody sitting in that meeting today and not seen crystal clear how much tourism can really empower economically some of these rural communities. And some of the stories we heard of people who, Sonia Outlaw Clark, who was instrumental in getting the Flag Grove School moved out of a field and into the Welcome Center, and now it's turned into. Once Tina Turner heard about it, have you ever visited there at exit 56 in Brownsville? Once Tina Turner heard, that's the school she went to, and they helped her know how serious they were. It's become the Tina Turner Museum, and so she gets hundreds of thousands of people stopping between Memphis and Nashville at their visitor center. First of all, it has restrooms, it has food, it has all the things you need when you're traveling. But then they learn about Tina Turner, they learn about West Tennessee, they learn about what the area has to offer. And I was hosting a panel with her, and I asked her, what are people asking for? And she said they're looking for rural, unique, authentic experiences, and that is exactly what we have up here in Northwest Tennessee.
Well, and of course, I'm Southwest Tennessee, and I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt that once our people started to catch up with your people and people from the northern part that were becoming proactive and doing the things you're talking about, we immediately started to see it changing at home. And I was like, okay, what's going on? So I started talking to some of the people that work with the city, and we're doing Christmas on Main and all these things, and I'm thinking, where's this coming from? Well, it's rural tourism, blah, blah, blah. And Melanie that you spoke of, is it Melanie?
Melanie Beecham.
Exactly. She was involved. So they put one of those music markers in my hometown for me, and she was involved in that. She came down and talk about you talk about an old country boy that didn't know how to act. I was like, and I drive by there sometimes, and it's right beside the Darryl Worley Cancer Treatment Center, which I'm very proud of. I never will forget when we decided we were going to come up with a name for it, and they said we're just going to. And I said, no, man, name it after. I just lost a very close friend to cancer, and I said, name it after him. They said, you don't understand. We're going to use your name to help us, raise money and stuff. And I said, okay, whatever. But anyway, but to see that there is still, I drive by and I go, that is just bizarre. But I said all that to say, it's amazing to me how just once you become proactive, and it doesn't take a whole lot of stuff. You can just do a few little things, and it compounds. And I think that we're seeing. It makes a difference in commerce and the money that comes in.
He just said $40 million right here.
That's unreal.
That's as Commissioner Ezell says,
tourism is real money.
Real money.
That's what he says.
Sure
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, because a lot of people don't understand that. A lot
They
of
think
people
it's fun because so often they associate it with events and concerts and know that they're just going to have fun. No, there's money behind that.
Oh, man. When we first started doing the Tennessee River Run, it was up at Pickwick, and we moved it to Savannah for a couple of years. Boy, did I make a bunch of people mad. Those people at Pickwick were like, man, we looked forward to that. That was the biggest time of the year for us. People would come in our stores, spend money, and I thought, I never even dreamed of all that.
Right.
And so it makes a difference.
Right. No, it
surely
absolutely does. Well, and so for Discovery Park, I was looking at our numbers for 2023, and only 5% of our visitors came from our zip code. So 95% of the people are coming here from out of town. That's insane, isn't it?
That is crazy.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
I guess I'd
That's
have
a big.
to say though that I'm not. I don't know if I'm surprised because you're gonna always have some local support, and you probably got people that have come here and said, "Okay, I've seen it now. I don't need to go back." I wouldn't be that way. It'd take forever to learn all the stuff that's in this place,
Right.
and I'd want to read every word of it.
Yeah, I still see things that I say, did we just add that? No, but no, it's been here the whole time you've been here.
Exactly. I've been here a bunch of times, and I hadn't seen.
Yeah.
I only scratched the surface.
Yeah.
But I can. I mean, I think people hear about it. You know, that's how I heard about this place. Is I heard from guys in Nashville talk about it.
Right.
So
Yeah, word of mouth is
it's
always
huge.
number one. That's why it's
Absolutely.
important, to your point, that you create a product that is a good quality product.
Yes.
And so that's another key
Yeah.
to, people aren't going to drive, 2-3 hours to experience something that's not up here, So
That's
that's
right.
why we work so hard
Yeah.
on our customer service
Yeah.
and on people seeing you and saying, could I help you? And,
Yeah.
we
Yes.
have, an unofficial guideline where, if you're 5 feet away, you say hello, how are you? If you're 10 feet away, you smile. So we
Huh.
have that kind of
that.
happening. There's a lot of things like that happen underneath the surface.
that's awesome.
That and
you can feel it.
yeah, good,
can
because that's
feel it.
really what we try to do. And we get, as you exit, there's a little form you can fill out that say who made your day special, and then we tally those up every month and distribute them around to everybody so they can see what
Make an
made
impact.
people feel
That's
special. And
awesome.
sometimes it's something as minor as, my child skinned his knee,
Yeah.
and the nurse gave me a Band-Aid.
Right.
And so just things like that make a big difference.
Yeah.
So
How
we
long have you
really
been
focus.
here?
6 years.
Wow.
6 years. I'm
You-
hoping
your
to make it another 20.
enthusiasm for this place after that length of time is pretty impressive.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, that's
Thank
great.
you. Yeah, I caught it from all the people that we have an amazing number of people that were here on day one, day -25. They were
Yeah.
here when there was just trailers
Conceptual.
here and it was a dirt lot. And so, you catch that from them. It's
Sure.
not just a job for those folks. I mean, this is a passion,
Yes.
and you can really feel that, and it's contagious.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
That's always the case. And I tell you, for anybody out there that's listening to this, us going on and on and on about Discovery Park, if you haven't been here, you've got to come to this place, and don't just send the children. Your parents need to come too, because I'm telling you, when I got in here, I turned into the biggest kid of all. I mean, my
Yeah.
daughter's like, "Dad, there's a whatever dinosaur that is," and I'm like, "Honey, please, this is T-Rex, and I'm going to stand right here for a few minutes."
Give me a minute.
Yeah. Now, I'm surprised you didn't ask me if Elvis is still alive. I expected that to be a question.
I
Well,
already
I
know the
didn't know.
answer to
So
that, but
okay,
he-
good. I didn't get to. I wanted to catch you beforehand.
Yeah, I was
Just make
hoping
sure it
I
was
hoping
okay,
you were gonna
because I
ask me
have
that.
my
I just got
theories.
back from Michigan, so don't worry about
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. So since you teed that up for me, is Elvis
Yes.
still alive?
So Elvis is alive in the
Good
hearts and minds of fans around the world.
Amen.
Or Elvis is laying out by the pool. The truth is, this is kind of a gross answer, but hopefully if you can cut it out if it's not, if you don't like
Yeah.
it. So when I was working at the hospital, and a doctor came in and said, "Are you the young man who's going to Graceland?" And I said, "Yes, sir, I am." And he said, "I have always wanted to tell somebody this. If Elvis wasn't alive before I did his autopsy, if Elvis wasn't dead before I did his autopsy, he was after." So this was the guy who had done Elvis's autopsy. And so I said, so you're telling me he is absolutely deceased? And he said, "Son, there is no question." So that put up, through the
Wow.
years I worked there, whenever somebody would
That is huge.
whenever
On my podcast.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's Darryl just said, "Hey,
It's
hey,
broken.
Hey, hey,
You just got the
make
answer.
sure the cameras are
Oh,
rolling."
you need to use that. I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
that's-
but we
no, that's- no,
so that's the answer.
because now that did just take all the fun
Wow.
out of all the theory. Because I can get, especially now with TikTok and things, you can get to scrolling for days on the pastor Bob. I can't remember his last name. Bob.
Ren.
And the similarities there, and just all the different crazy stories. And I've always, that they didn't cash in the life insurance policy, and then that's, everything else would have been a CIA cover up, but they didn't cover. Nothing was illegal because they didn't cash that in. And
Yeah, Elvis is in heaven, looking down, singing. He's
Oh,
leading the choir.
I promise you, if anybody ever went to heaven,
Yep.
yeah,
because we're we talked about this. Cletus talked about it on his post about my beard. We're supposed to be all uniquely flawed, and I believe that. And so none of us are ever going to be perfect. But I will promise you that he was full of the Spirit.
Well,
Man.
when I lived in Memphis for many years, from the time I was in college all the way through my young adulthood, I was a member of First Assembly of God, Memphis.
Cool.
Right there on Highland. Where Jesus is Lord, was their saying. But that's the same church that Elvis Presley was a member of.
I
when
know.
he
I've
was
been to
young.
that church.
Okay,
Yes,
so
sir.
so a lot of my buddies, their mothers and fathers sang in the choir and were in the youth group with Elvis.
Oh,
How
and
cool is
so
that?
I heard lots of stories. Well, people told me, Dixie Emmons was the church secretary there, and everybody said, don't ask Dixie about it because she doesn't like to talk about it, but she used to date Elvis. And this is before I ever even dreamed of working there. I was a college and career kid, so I was still in college. And so Miss Dixie asked me one time, she said, Scott, will you do, because I was an artist, she said, will you do this poster? Our pastor is leaving, Pastor Hamill's leaving. Will you do this poster for me for his going away? And so I said, Dixie, I will. If you'll do me a favor, will you tell me about when you dated Elvis? And she
went there.
And so she said, deal. And so,
Wow,
and this is
cool.
long before I ever worked at Graceland. And so we sat there in the church office, and she told me her story of how she and Elvis met in high school at church, and how they started dating, and her parents weren't too keen on the idea, but she went like for a few weeks. Now she's written a book since then. She's passed away, but she wrote a book. But she went to the beach, and while she was gone, Elvis's single dropped,
Right.
started being played. He recorded it, signed, started being played, Red Hot and Blue, all that, and all of a sudden, Elvis's career took off, and Dixie comes back in town, and she suddenly, got a boyfriend who's the hottest thing going, and they did end up breaking up. But, through the years, they would sort of,
Right.
Get back together again, just, to talk and stuff. And then she married her husband, had kids, wonderful, wonderful lady. And she and Priscilla became really great friends. And whenever Priscilla would come in town, they would go out together. But anyway, so all those First Assembly people would have stories of being in the choir, and Elvis would come up in the balcony because he didn't want to create a scene, and he would sit there and praise and worship up in the balcony while they were singing, and they would see it. So
imagine?
yeah, can you imagine? It's hard to imagine Elvis as a real person, isn't it? Yeah. It's but anyway, so I think Elvis was a very complicated individual, obviously.
All musicians are,
Yeah.
aren't they?
Hello?
DW. I tell you, I hate to kill the cool moment, but if you look over Darryl's shoulder here, I think Sam might be getting one of the coolest podcast shots.
That's very scary.
He's got the drone outside the window, and so
How high are you, Sam?
so
very
that's
scary.
going to be a cool moment. I think,
telling
Mike. That's
Sam
how
is on
cool
the up
it
and
is?
up.
There's a lot of news breaking here. We got things out there, and lots of things happening.
Absolutely.
Well, now I know. So one more thing, and then it's always my pleasure to wrap this thing up because we could all sit here and talk forever. But
And we got to get you on the stage.
well, we got to get him ready
Man,
for the stage. And I
have-
just got a text that said Blake has some brisket ready for you to try.
I
Nice.
have thoroughly enjoyed
Oh
this.
my gosh,
This
it's
is like,
incredible.
and you grew up in Memphis.
Memphis, yeah, I'm a Memphian.
Man, that is so cool.
Yeah.
And you married a gal from Boise, Idaho.
Boise, Idaho. Yeah,
And she loves it here.
yeah, loves it. Yeah, she teaches art history at UT Martin.
This has been
So,
fun, man.
Absolutely, man. It's been a
Thank you
blast.
for doing it.
Yeah, I'm glad to get to know you better instead of just a person,
Oh,
instead of just an
absolutely.
incredible singer on a stage.
Well, I appreciate that. I ain't Elvis.
None of us are.
None of us are. Yeah.
No,
So-
sir.
Well, this is great, guys. You're going to have all kinds of links and things for those of you who are watching. That's easy to click. Those of you who are listening, don't wreck the car, pulling that up on your phone, but come back and check that out later.
Discovery Park of America. I love that.
Isn't that cool? That's a
Dot
bold statement.
com.
I like
I
it.
love
Dot
that.
com. Yeah,
Dot
you can
com.
check that out
I've
there.
almost
Yeah.
always got my stars and straps
That's
on.
awesome.
You do. And so go check that out. Share that with somebody because that's part of what we're doing is utilizing our platform to and your podcast. We'll put that on there too. The Real Foot Forward.
Real Foot Forward.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's cool.
He's got a
Search
great
that.
podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And our podcast is basically we try to find people that are doing the same things we're doing with our museum in their life. They're making the world a better place. They're trying new things. They're
Yeah.
people who can inspire other people. So that's what
Yeah.
our podcast is all
I love
about.
it.
With a bit of a rural flair. Most of our guests are, doing things in rural communities. So yeah.
Scott's got that rule thing down. So you'll have to watch
Well,
a clip.
people need to be
So-
highlighted. Those
Yeah.
people need to be highlighted.
Right.
Absolutely.
I was making a
Absolutely.
joke about us at the RNC when all the Yankees started saying "rule" with us.
Oh.
So it was so funny because we're at the Republican National Convention. It's 10:00 at night. We started one episode at 1:00 in the morning after he played,
It was terrible.
and everybody's saying "rule," because we're talking about Blue Oval City and all these things, and it was fine. Like guys, it's rule. Just
Right.
So it made.
Well,
some
this
funny
conference is called
content.
Discover Your Rural, and I've been having a hard time
Yeah.
saying
That's hard
that.
to say.
So yeah,
like
it
Darryl
is.
Worley.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you, you
Word.
stand in line at the radio seminar and say, "Hello, I'm Darryl Worley," and do 50 liners on a page. And there was people lined up as far as you could see to do that, and you'd stay in there in that booth for 3 solid hours and do that. And I promise you, after 15 minutes, you can't say your own name. Darryl, it just all ran together. I'm like, oh my god.
Well, thanks again, Scott.
Yeah,
Thanks again,
thanks for
Discovery
having me.
Park, and hope to see you guys again soon.
And the washer quit last week.
Sounds Like Life with Darryl Worley is a Blue Spire media production hosted by Darryl Worley and Travis McLeese, produced and edited by Mike Murphy and Sam Hudson, lighting by Micah Powell, set design by Sam Hudson, theme song Sounds Like Life to Me by Darryl Worley, executive producers Jeff Lemanowski and Julianne Drennan.
I'm gonna say it sounds like life to me. It ain't no fantasy. It's just a common case of everyday